So we'll be talking about all these areas in today's presentation. So we'll be talking briefly about what exactly is ERP, a brief introduction to what ERP is. Because unless and until we talk about ERP, we can't talk about the SAP, because SAP is one of the most widely used ERP softwares. So before going to that, it's always advisable to understand briefly what ERP is. So that's what we'll be doing. Briefly, we'll try to understand what exactly is ERP. Then we'll talk briefly about what SAP is. Then in detail, we'll talk about what exactly are we covering in the financial accounting module, and what are we covering under the controlling module. Then we are going to the career planning. What are the different roles which are available if you take up this particular area as your career? How can you plan your career, and what are the areas in which you can go ahead once you finish off this course? That's what we'll be talking about in the last area. Okay.
Right.
Okay. So let's start with the first part, ERP. Now, when you say ERP, one of the most widely used term in the industry in the last 1.5 decades, almost from the middle of 90s, every company has been moving towards the ERP side. When you say ERP, the full form of this, enterprise resource planning. So the primary objective when you talk about ERP is to plan the resources of an organization. And two major things, when you're shifting towards an ERP, the first most important thing is you're trying to automate all your daily business processes, firstly. And secondly, you'd like to go ahead with effective planning of the resources. Now, when you say planning of the resources, we are talking about the primary resources which are available for any organization. We're talking about men, machines, materials and money. How effectively can we plan these resources? And SAP is one of the most widely used software under the category of the ERP products. So, number of ERP products are available here. You have something like SAP, you have Oracle applications, you have JD Edwards, Baan, PeopleSoft. In this way, many of the products are available in the market. Of all these products, SAP is the market leader. I'll say occupying roughly about 65% of the market throughout the world. The balance part is being occupied by the remaining software. Like Oracle application is something which occupies about 30%. The remaining is being occupied by softwares like JD Edwards, Baan, PeopleSoft, other small products. A brief introduction to what SAP is. It's a leading ERP package. It enables an enterprise to undertake its day-to-day and long-term activities in an effective and efficient way. The primary objective of this is use of this package makes it possible to track and manage in real time the sales, production, finance and accounting, and human resources activities in an enterprise. So you would like to not only go ahead with the planning activities, we would like to go ahead with the actual things which are happening in an organization. Only then you can go ahead with the variance part, to compare the actual data with the planned data, and then based on the variance you can think of taking some action. So using this package, your decision making can become a little more effective, because the kind of information which you are going to extract from this particular product is much more advanced when you compare with any other product.
Okay.
So SAP is both the name of the company as well as the ERP product. It consists of number of fully integrated modules which virtually covers every aspect of the business. Now when you say integrated modules, we are talking about the interlink, how these departments are interlinked. So we'll try to understand this concept of integration after we go to a little advanced state. A brief history about SAP. Full form of this, we call it as Systems, Applications and Products in Data Processing. This was a company which was started in the year 1972 by these 5 people, which was renamed in the year 1977, and before 77 it was called as Systems Analysis and Program Development. Now when you look at this slide, actually the next one, now this is something which explains a lot of things when you talk about SAP. I've taken a small example of an organization having 5 departments. There's a finance and accounts department, there's a purchasing department, production and planning, inventory and sales. Now let us suppose this particular organization, every department is having its own product now. Let's say finance and accounts is using another software to maintain its day-to-day activities. Purchasing is using another software to maintain its day-to-day activities, the production and planning another software. In this way, in all these 5 departments, every department is having its own software. Now, the major disadvantage in this particular scenario is, firstly, the organization has to maintain 5 different products. That means there has to be some technical person who can maintain these products in the respective areas. One technical person should be there from the finance side, another technical person from the purchasing side, production, inventory, as well as sales. Where it's not only the cost of the product, but also the maintenance cost is something which is increasing for the organization. And second most important thing, when 5 different products are there in the market, the transfer of data is something which is always going to be difficult. Let's say, I'll give you a simple example. I'll talk something about the purchasing department now. Let's say in the purchase department, there's an activity which is going on, something like purchase of raw materials. A person A is recording that transaction in the purchase department now. Now, how does this transaction flow take place in a normal scenario? First, it gets recorded in the purchase side, and the same transaction will get transferred to the finance and account side. And another individual from the finance and account side will record the transaction from there. That means for a single activity, there are 2 people who are working on it. One from the purchase side and other from the finance and account side. Now, let us suppose if the size of the organization is big, the number of departments are more. In that scenario, it's not just 2 people, there may be many individuals who are working for a single activity. Right? Now, let's suppose the activity is recorded in the purchase side, but it has not been transferred to finance and accounts. That is definitely going to create a problem. There's going to be a data mismatch there. Purchase department is going to show you something, finance department is going to something else. So organizations wanted a solution for this. So more the number of individuals involved, it's quite possible that there's always going to be some data mismatches which is going to take place, which is always going to create a problem at the end of the year. So SAP has provided a solution for these problems. So how does it solve all these problems now? The first important thing is, when you go ahead with this particular product, you don't need to have 5 different products in all these 5 departments. One product is going to fulfill the requirements of all these departments. So you need not go ahead with a separate product in the finance and accounts. You do not go ahead with a separate product in the purchase side, a separate product in the production side, inventory or sales. So all the requirements are fulfilled in one particular product. So you need not go ahead with 5 different people. So earlier there was one person from the finance side maintaining it, another person from the purchase side. But one individual with knowledge about a good technical sound knowledge can maintain all these areas. So second problem has been solved now. The third important problem, which we call as the concept of integration. Integration means the interlink between all these departments. Now,
Right.
let us suppose this product has been implemented in one of the organizations. Now, when you go ahead with these products, all these departments are interlinked now. So what happens because of that? The moment you record the transaction in the purchase side, the system is automatically going to update the transaction in the finance and account side. That means another individual who was responsible for updating in the finance and account side did not do that. The system is doing it automatically. So the question of data mismatch, that means a transaction getting recorded in the purchase side and not getting recorded in the finance and account side, is no longer there. Okay. Now, as a finance person, what is your responsibility in this area? As a finance person, you are supposed to know very clearly what exactly is happening. If an activity is recorded in the purchase side, what is the corresponding impact of that in the finance and account side? When I say corresponding impact, what are the GL accounts which are going to get updated? So as a finance person, you are going to provide that link between these 2 departments. And this is one of the major reasons why organizations are moving to this particular site. So we can't say that this is the only reason, because organizations have, if they have already shifted, there are many other day-to-day requirements which SAP is fulfilling in a much better way when compared with any other product. That's the reason why organizations are moving very fast towards this area. So I hope things are okay till here. Any questions?
Not so far.
Okay. Right. Now coming to the major areas of SAP. This is divided into 3 major areas. One we call it as application area. The second is the basis area. Third is the development area. Now, when you talk about the basis and the development area, these two are more into the technical side. Like when I say basis area is something where you're trying to maintain the systems, trying to maintain the servers. Like, depending on the number of users, you're going to create the user IDs and passwords for every individual. So such activities are taken care by the basis person. Then the development area. Development area is more into the programming side. The widely used programming language here is, we call it as ABAP, Advanced Business Application and Programming. So we are not going into either the basis or the development area. We are trying to concentrate on the application area, which we call as functional actually. So when you say functional application area, we are talking about a specific area or a specific department in an organization. Okay. So these are some of the widely used application modules. One most widely used module, we call it as FI, financial accounting. Then CO, that is your controlling. You have materials management. You have sales and distribution, SD, production and planning, quality management, plant maintenance and customer service, project systems, and human resources. Of all these areas, we are trying to talk about the financial accounting and the controlling side. Okay?
Okay.
So what are we going to do in the financial accounting side, the FI side? The key areas which we are going to talk about, these are the four things. First, we talk about general ledger, we talk about accounts payables, accounts receivables, and asset management. These three areas, that is your payables, receivables, and asset management, we use a term for them, for these areas, we call it as a sub-ledger. So one by one, we'll try to understand what are we doing in the general ledger and other areas. But what is our objective in the finance and accounting module first? Why is it that we should go to financial accounting? The important thing is, I would like to generate my profit and loss account and balance sheet. So the objective of financial accounting module is to generate a profit and loss account and balance sheet. That is the financial statements of a firm. So in order to generate the financial statements, transactions must be recorded in the general ledger. It's not that only in the general ledger. I'm just going back to the previous slide. So whatever transactions which we record in the general ledger, in the accounts payable, accounts receivable, and asset management, these all will become a part of the financial accounting module. That is the FI module. Coming to the next slide. So let us try to understand first, what do we do in the general ledger? First activity, I'll say all activities needed to post a transaction are undertaken. So what do I mean by all activities needed to post a transaction? I'm talking about posting of a transaction from the accounting point of view. Let's say I'll give you a simple example, something like posting of salaries. So when I'm going for posting of salaries, I will be debiting my salaries account and I'll be crediting my bank account. So in order to record this transaction, what is the fundamental activity which I'm supposed to do? I cannot record a transaction before I go for the creation of chart of accounts. That means unless and until I create a chart of accounts, I cannot go for any other activity. Now the question which comes here is, what do I mean by chart of accounts? Now when I say chart of accounts, in simple, very easy terminology, it's nothing but the list of all the GL accounts. That means, let us say an organization is there now, which is using, let's say, some other product. Now it wants to move towards SAP. When it is moving towards SAP, as a finance person, I should very clearly know what are the GL accounts which are required. Something like salary account to record my salary payment, something like rent account to record my rent account. So in this way, how many GL accounts are there? I need to first create all these GL accounts. Okay. That means my posting of a transaction is very much linked with the creation of general ledger accounts, and creation of general ledger accounts is very much linked with the preparation of chart of accounts. Okay. So unless and until I create my chart of accounts, I cannot create a general ledger account and I cannot go for posting of a transaction. So my initial activity in my GL starts with the creation of chart of accounts, then I go to the general ledger accounts, then I go for the posting of transactions, and based on the requirement, I can go ahead with generation of reports. Let's say I want to know for a period of 3 months, what are the expenses which I have spent for something like rent. or maybe something like salaries. How do I get it? I can get into the generation of reports. So whatever we do under the GL, they can be put under these four heads, either the chart of accounts, the creation of GLs, posting, or generation of reports. So I hope things are okay till here. Any questions?
Yeah. No, I'm listening.
Okay. Now, once we finish up the GL part, we go to the second important area, which we call as accounts payables. Now, as the name itself says, this is something which is related to purchasing activity. Activities related to purchase of raw materials and purchase of other items on credit are recorded in this module. Accounts payable in SAP terminology is called as a subledger. What do I mean by subledger is, whatever transaction which I am trying to record in the payables is always recorded at two levels actually. First, it gets recorded at the subledger level. From there, it goes to the GL. Like this picture is something which will give you a more clear picture. Let's say when I'm talking about accounts payables, or let's say when I'm talking about recording of a transaction which is related to purchase of raw materials, the first important thing is I need to create a GL account with the name sundry creditors raw material. Now, what do I mean by this when I say sundry creditors raw material, or why do I create this? The reason is very simple. This is something which will give me the total value of creditors. That means, let's say if my company is buying raw material from 10 different vendors, together what is the total value? I'll be getting it from my sundry creditors raw material account. Okay. Now, this information is something which is needed for the stakeholders. Someone like a banker who is trying to extend a credit to the company, he's more interested in knowing the position of creditors. Or someone like another outside creditor who is extending some credit to the company, he is more interested in knowing about the creditor's position. So that information I can get it from here. But let us say when my company is making the payment to the vendor, like let's say as I told you, my company is buying raw materials from 10 different vendors, someone like vendor X, vendor Y, or vendor Z. The individual information, that means what is the amount which is due to X, Y, or Z, that information I cannot get it from my GL account. Okay, so to get that information, I have to come to my subledger, and here under the subledger I create a vendor master. Okay, so vendor master is nothing but a list of all the vendors. That means let's say if my company is having 100 vendors, every vendor will be there in the vendor master. Now, when I'm creating this vendor master, this subledger, that means the vendor master is a subledger. The subledger will be linked to this general ledger. Okay. So what happens because of that? Let's say if my company is buying from vendor X, I post it to vendor X account. If my company is buying from vendor Y, I post it to vendor Y's account. That means I am recording a transaction at the subledger level. From there, it gets transferred to the GL, which further goes for consolidation. That's how the flow takes place in the payables. Hope things are okay. Any questions here?
No, it makes a lot of sense.
Okay. Now, very much similar to this is receivables, also called as a subledger again. Now, when I say subledger, the logic is something which remains the same. There is absolutely no change in the logic. But the only thing which changes is the terminology here and the purpose. So what do we do here? Activities related to sale of finished goods and sale of other items on credit are recorded in this module. So we are coming to the sales side. Accounts receivable in SAP is treated as a subledger. Again, when you say subledger, the flow of data is something which remains the same. So let's go to the next slide. Again, here also we are going to create one GL account, which we call as sundry debtors sales. Now, this is something which gives me the total value of debtors. Okay. Let's say if my company is having 10 different customers, every customer's together what is the total value? That is something I can get it from my GL account. Okay. But let's say when I'm supposed to know the individual values, that means what is the amount which is due from vendor X, customer Y, or customer Z. I cannot depend on my GL account. I have to come to my subledger, and at the subledger level, I create a customer master. That is nothing but list of all the customers. Someone like X, Y, Z, or whoever is the customer, his details will be included there. Okay. So when we create this subledger, we link again to this GL account. That is, the subledger is getting linked to the general ledger. So if I'm selling my goods to X, I post it to X account. If I'm selling it to Y, post it to Y's account. So I record my transaction at the subledger level. From there, it gets transferred to the GL automatically, and which further goes to the balance sheet. That's how the flow remains in receivables. The only thing which changes is the accounting entry. One is from the customer side, other one will be from the vendor side. Okay. Hope things are okay till here.
Yeah.
Right. The next important area, we call this as asset accounting. Now this is where we are talking about all our fixed assets. Activities related to purchase, sale, transfer, and scrapping of fixed assets are undertaken in this module. So what are we trying to do here? In simple terms, we call it as a life cycle of a fixed asset. Now, life cycle is something which starts with the first stage, that is, when you are buying the asset. So right from the first stage till the last stage, which we call as scrapping, what all things which are happening in the life of the asset, that becomes a part of your asset accounting. Now in SAP terminology, this is also called as a subledger now. So let us try to understand once again by going into the next slide. Now when I'm talking about asset accounting, the first most important thing here is I'll go ahead with creation of one record, which I call as asset master. Now what is this asset master? Something which will give me the value of individual assets. That means, let's say my company is having 3 different plants, something like plant and machinery 1, 2 and 3. Now asset master is something which will give me the individual values. Now this asset master will be linked to the asset class. Like let's say I have 3 plants, so I'm going ahead with plant and machinery 1, 2 and 3. I may be having 3 or 4 buildings, buildings 1, 2 and 3. Now these individual assets will always be linked to another record which we call as asset class. That means these 3 plants will be linked to one common asset class, plant and machinery. If I'm having buildings, those 3 buildings will be linked to one common asset class called as buildings. This in turn will be linked to the GL account. That means the asset master will always give me the individual values. I can know what is the value of plant and machinery 1, what is the value of plant and machinery 2, or what is the value of plant and machinery 3 at the asset master level. Together, what is the value? I will be knowing at the asset class level. Okay? And quite obviously, when I'm talking about asset accounting, just give me a second now. Yeah, I'm sorry.
No worries.
Okay. So, asset master is something which gives us the individual values. From there, it goes to the asset class, and from the asset class, it further gets transferred to the GL account. And when we are talking about individual assets, quite obviously, the depreciation on every asset is something which we calculate at the asset master level. So these are the 4 important areas which we talk about in the FI side. That is your general ledger, accounts receivable, accounts payable, and asset accounting. Any questions still here? I hope things are okay.
Yeah, everything's okay.
Fine. Now once we finish off the FI part, we go to the CO side. CO is more into the controlling area actually. So in general terminology, this is nothing but your management accounting or costing, which we call as. So data flow in controlling will be from FI. The flow of data will always be from FI to CO. There's nothing which we do separately in CO. The transaction we are going to record in FI, from there it comes to the CO side. Now what is the purpose of this? The module is needed for internal management reporting. Like, let's say the top management wants to take a decision now on a specific activity where, let's assume that the cost has been much high then for a specific time period. I cannot take a decision by looking at my profit and loss account and balance sheet, because profit and loss account and balance sheet will give me only the overall picture about the organization. It doesn't give me individually the information about a specific department or a specific area. So when I need information at the department level or at the activity level or by cost centers, then I have to depend on my controlling module. So what do we do here? Something which we call as CO reporting or reports by cost centers. When I want information project wise or orders wise, I want to plan the actual data, or I want to go ahead with budgeting and planning. I want to compare the actual data with the planned data. Based on the variances, maybe I can think of taking some corrective action. So when my objective is taking some corrective action or decision making, then I have to depend on my CO module. I cannot take a decision based on the information supplied by the profit and loss account and balance sheet. So in that case, I have to depend compulsorily on the controlling module. So what do we do here? Represents the flow of cost and revenue, instrumental in organizational decision making. The key elements in the CO side. The first important area which we talk about here is cost center accounting. Provides information on costs incurred by the business cost center wise. What is your objective here? When I need information cost center wise. Cost center is a department again. For this department, what are the expenses which I have incurred? How can I get it? I cannot depend on my profit and loss account, because profit and loss account will give me only the total picture, not the picture division wise. Like I have given you a small example here. Salaries paid to finance or HR department's employees, or traveling expenses paid to a particular department's employees. How do I get it? My profit and loss account doesn't give me that information. I have to depend on my cost center accounting. So, any questions here? I hope things are okay.
No.
Second important area, we talk about internal orders. Now, internal orders is something which goes one step ahead of cost center accounting. Now, in cost center accounting, I am trying to get the information at the department level. But at times, there may be a requirement where I need some information activity wise, or let's say for a specific task or for a specific job. Then how do I get that information? I have to depend on my internal orders. Like I've given you a small example. Marketing department wants to find out the cost incurred for conducting an advertising campaign. Let's say it's conducting an advertising campaign. As a head of marketing department, I would like to know what are the expenses which I have incurred for that activity. I cannot depend on my cost center, because cost center will give me information only up to the department level.
True.
When I want information within a department for that specific activity, then I have to depend on my internal orders. Something which goes one step ahead of cost center accounting. Okay?
Yeah.
Now in the first two cases, that is whether it is cost center or whether it is internal orders, in both the cases, we have been talking only about the costs. Nowhere the concept of revenue has come into picture. So the concept of revenue will come into picture when we talk about profit center accounting. A profit center will have revenues as well as costs. Again, a profit center is nothing but it's a department in an organization which is having revenues as well as costs, which is definitely giving some kind of income to the company, but simultaneously there is some kind of expenditure involved there. So for a profit center, we'll be booking the revenues as well as costs. From this particular department, what is the revenue which is generated? I would like to book that. And since simultaneously there is some cost involved, I'll be booking my cost also. And quite obviously, I'll talk about the result. What exactly has been the profit or loss which I am getting from this particular department? Now, if it is loss, then there's no point in calling it as a profit center. Okay. So such analysis can be done using your profit center accounting. Okay.
Right.
Then a little more advanced area, profitability analysis. There may be some specific requirement where I need some information product wise. Let's say I would like to know the information about a specific product, the sales or revenue generated by a product in a specific area for a specific time period now. Now how do I get it? I have to depend on my profitability analysis. Now, why is it required for an organization? The reason is very simple actually. Let's say if this product is not sold properly in a specific area, what action can be taken? Maybe the top management can think of conducting some advertising campaign, try to push up the sales and try to increase the sales of that particular product. Now, even after that, even after doing all the activities, if the product is not picking up, it can always think of replacing it in that particular area. So, based on the information which profitability analysis is giving me, I can always think of taking some decision about a specific product. That's why this becomes equally important. Okay. In the next important area, we call it as FIMM and FISD integration. That means we are trying to link two departments here. There is a finance department, there is a materials department now. Now, unless and until I go for this concept of integration, if I record a transaction in the material side, the system will not be in a position to pass a corresponding entry in the finance side. It's only after this concept of integration, after providing that link between these two departments, the system can pass that entry automatically. So I'm trying to do some activities from the finance side. I'll be doing some activities from the material side. And at some stage, I'll be linking both these departments. The objective is the transaction will get recorded from the material side. The system is going to pass an entry from the finance side. So there is automatic posting of transactions whenever you go for this concept of integration. The same thing will be done from the FISD also. Some activities from the finance side, some activities from the sales side. At some stage, we provide that link. Now, as a finance person now, as a finance functional consultant, that is your SAP functional consultant, you are supposed to know what is the impact of, corresponding impact of that in the finance side. Because materials person will be responsible for recording the transaction from the material side, and you will be responsible for providing that link, because you are not going to pass the entry manually there. The system is going to pass that entry automatically. But okay. So as a person, you are supposed to know which are the GL accounts which will be getting updated if you pass that entry in the sales side or in the material side. Okay. Right. So these are some of the things which we cover under the CO side actually. The cost center accounting, then your internal orders, profit center accounting, your profitability analysis, and the concept of integration. Now, what are the roles which are available? Let's say you have completed the course, and maybe after sufficient amount of efforts from your side, which areas can you think about the career part? The three major roles are available. The first, we call it as a functional consultant. Second is the support consultant. Third is the end user. Now, your choice will purely depend on your experience, your background, and in which area are you comfortable basically. Okay. So let us try to understand what does a functional consultant do first. Then maybe we can think of the next area. We call it as functional consultant in an end-to-end implementation project. When I say end-to-end implementation project, I'm talking about an organization moving from non-SAP to the SAP side. That means, let's say there's an organization which is having some other softwares which they are using. Now they are moving towards the SAP side now. Who is going to do that activity? A functional consultant will be one of the person responsible for shifting that organization from non-SAP to SAP side. It's not that he's the only person. He'll be a part of that major team. So what does he do actually? Functional consultant is expected to have knowledge about the current business process. That means whenever an organization is moving from non-SAP to SAP, functional consultant is going to undertake that activity, but unless and until he has a very clear knowledge about the existing scenario, how many business processes are there, how many business activities are there under the existing scenario, he'll first try to understand that. Then he'll map that into the SAP environment. Let's say if there are about 200 activities under the non-SAP scenario, he'll map all these activities into the SAP. Okay. How the same activity will look in the SAP. That is something which he is going to document first. Okay.
Okay.
So once he has done with this activity, his next major role will be to customize the product. So whatever is the requirement of that particular client, that is already there in the documented. So based on that document, he is going to customize that particular product as per the requirement of the client. That means he is just creating that particular software. That means activating the required fields in this particular software now. Once he has completed this activity, his role in the project is over. That means he has customized as per the requirement of the client and he is going to hand over that product to the company. So once he has handed over the product, the role of a functional consultant is over. Then it's not the role of support, it's the role of end user which is going to start. So who is an end user? End user is basically a person who is using the product. That means he is a person who is recording the day-to-day activities in the organization. Like let's say someone like a person who is into posting of all the invoices, vendor invoice, the customer invoices. So he is trying to use the product, that's all. Earlier he was doing the same activity in some other product, now he is doing that in the SAP side. So by and large, depending on in which area is he there, is he in the lower management or middle management, his role is decided accordingly. If he is in the lower management, he'll be more into the data entry. If he goes into a little higher level, he'll be more into the report generation part. But an end user is someone who is just trying to use the product, that's all.
Okay.
Now, when an end user is using the product, it's quite possible that he may be getting some problems now. Because he was using some other product, now suddenly you are asking him to do the same activity in the SAP side. So he may find it little difficult to understand these activities. So when an end user is getting a problem, the role of functional consultant, support consultant will come into picture. So what does he do? The main job of a support consultant is to provide assistance to the customer or the organization where SAP is already implemented. Primarily responsible for solving the problems of end user. When a problem arises, the support consultant has to diagnose, analyze and solve the issue. So he is more into the solving the problems of the end user. Now the question is, where do you fit in now? Is it the functional, is it the support, or is it the end user? Now if you are beginning your career, let's say you are just out of your MBA without any experience, then it's always advisable to start your career as an end user.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Because you neither have experience in the account side nor you have experience in the SAP side. So even if you have placed or as a functional consultant, it will be quite difficult for him. So he may not be in a position to do any justice. That's why better to start as an end user if you are at the beginning of your career. But if you have some experience into the respective areas, if you have some knowledge in the respective areas, it's always advisable to think of these two areas, functional and the support side. Okay?
Okay.
So that's it from my side.